This episode of Super Pulp Science is brought to you by Starlight, the board game. Kickstarter launches this March 17th. Check out starlightboardgame.com for more details.
Attention, citizens. It's time for Super Pulp Science.
This is Super Pulp Science, where we talk about how genre gets made. We have so much to talk about today. I'm here with Justin Curry, also known as Chasing Artwork Online, and our producer, Dan Vadeboncoeur. I realize I didn't introduce you as long-suffering. I feel like maybe we've grown as people.
Yeah.
Maybe you look so excited.
Maybe you're the one suffering today.
Actually, today
you're
I
the
am
suffering host.
Today I did come in a bit of a tizzy. But I am quite excited at this that I'm looking at. Dear listener, maybe you don't know this about Justin, but he's kind of a big deal. He did all the art for a new board game that's about to launch on Kickstarter called Starlight.
Starlight, yeah.
You want to...
Can I see this?
Yeah, check this out. So I'm just looking at the Starlight Games, I guess, Instagram right now and seeing all your artwork on little game pieces.
Oh, my God.
The figures 3D
wow, look at
modeled and, like, there's game pieces that you designed.
They're launching the Kickstarter on March 17th.
March 17th, yeah. So I want to gush about the team behind Starlight the game and just, like, the process of it, because it was kind of like a dream come true as a freelance project. When I was first approached to do a board game, like you can kind of tell from my portfolio that I'm a designer as well as an illustrator. And so as they were kind of pitching me the project of like, you know, you're going to do these card templates and this ship stuff. And in my mind, I thought, okay, I am like the only designer and only illustrator on this project. So I'm going to have to be doing all the graphic design, all the pre-press, as well as the illustration.
Big job.
Right? But no, it turns out they know what they're doing, and they had a designated graphic designer who was taking all my illustrations and doing all the heavy lifting graphic design work, which
meant you just got to develop assets.
Which meant I just got to draw. It was amazing, and like
It should be noted for the like really skeptical listener that Starlight Games has not paid us to promote this game in a positive light. This is really our experience with it, right?
Yeah. No, if I wasn't happy, we'd talk about a client and we'd leave names out of it and we'd still talk about them.
Yeah.
But no, it was great. And so they had a 3D artist attached to it. They had a designer, and then Brendan, the guy.
So there's a pipeline already in place, and you just got to make art and drop it in there. Mm-hmm. Now, for the dear listener who's not sure sort of what we're talking about as far as pipelines or graphic design or like what the job of an illustrator is, why don't you break down what you thought you had to do more specifically versus what you got to do that made you so excited? So,
like, for example, the box art. The box art was a project that, in my mind, was, okay, I need to do a scene that's going to be the front of the box, and then it's going to need the logo. And then on the sides, we're going to need, like, kind of a breakdown of, like, this, and on the back, we need, you know, shots of the actual board game. We'll need all these photos. We'll need all this information. Like, there's a lot of elements that are going to have to be implemented.
And so you thought you'd be interfacing the photography elements of the game with the back copy, with the box copy, with all that stuff.
There's going to be like 100 plus elements that all need to be put onto this box in a nice looking way. Right. And then you have to think about how it's going to be printed and the size and all that. And then I'm on the phone with Brendan, the gentleman who hired me, and he's just like, no, we just want you to draw it. Just draw the picture. And
Dan
I'm like,
just Googled the box art.
Right?
Oh my God.
And so that's not actually the original box art. I did a different scene for the box art.
Yeah.
I did that one earlier, and we just liked that one so much. It ended up being the box art, and the actual box art illustration will end up somewhere else.
That's so rad.
Yeah.
Okay, so you didn't have to do... So when you originally said yes, your belief was that you were signing on to do graphic design and illustration, two things that you have a lot of experience in, and then you discovered that they already had that pipeline.
Well, I think most clients don't understand
the difference.
Yeah. So that because I kind of had a handle on both, they'd want me to be doing both.
Right.
Like I was kind of a package deal that way.
Right.
So it was really refreshing and allowed me to concentrate on the illustrations far more than usual.
At what point in the negotiation did that become clear, and then you didn't want to, like, you know, because there's a moment in every negotiation where you might have to pass on the job.
Yeah.
That would be the moment where I'd be like, oh my God, I'd even lower my price to just not have those headaches, right? Like, did you have that moment?
I think, like, as we were we would periodically have phone calls throughout the project just to talk things out, as well as we had, you know, like all the email correspondence and stuff. We never talked about any of the graphic design, and it was never explained what anything would, like, the fact that none of those details were being passed on to me made
coming
me
up
realize
in your itemized list.
Yeah, like that I didn't have to worry about them.
Oh, was it one of those things where you didn't ask in case? They'd be like, oh yeah, you could do that.
Yeah. No.
At what point did you realize that they weren't just going to talk about making a product, that they were going to scale it up and make, you know, like chips and cards and a board and a 3D print?
From day one, they talked about doing exactly what they did.
Right.
And this is a company that's done stuff like this before. They're not to this scale, but they've done successful Kickstarters and they've done successful board games before. Right. So this wasn't their first rodeo, which I think is also why they knew to set up this pipeline of an illustrator, designer, 3D artist, and have, like, you know, not one person doing everything.
And they had a game mechanic already in place.
So that's the other kind of funny thing. I have no clue what the game works like. Like, people have asked, like, what kind of game is this? Like, I have no clue. It looks fun, though. The mechanics were never explained.
Really good, yeah.
And I never really asked. Like, I play board games. Munchkin is probably as complex as I get. I don't get into, like, the really in-depth board games. And this looks like one of those, like, you have to be into board games to dedicate the time to getting into this game.
See, on the surface from me, it looks like you manage your resources, you have your team of, like, spaceships, and you're raiding your friends for their stuff.
See, this game is probably more for you. You already understand more than I do.
I mean,
well, yeah, and that's kind of you have a background in that kind of stuff, right? I'm just Googling around, and I found this piece. I guess one of the game developers posted this. So it's on Reddit. A scene from the opening act of my upcoming cooperative game Starlight, and it's got your image here.
Yeah.
And then just a comment, love this art style. Check out the artist on Instagram. Instagram.com/chasing
giving you some love.
Some
it's
play there.
Almost like when you enter into an agreement with a reputable group of people that they'll share and support.
It's a great thing for, like, your portfolio to have something like this, right?
Yes.
It's different from anything else you've done, and it's just a great piece in that. Now, I don't suppose you can sell copies of this game at your booth eventually, or is that not?
You know, like, I'm sure later in, like, I love the idea. I don't want, 50. I don't want to buy into the print run and have 100 boxes here. But if I'm going to be, say, at, like, San Diego or New York, and these guys are going to be there too, I'd love to do some kind of cross.
Because you could sign the box. You could
we'll definitely talk about that. Like, one of the things that we talked about in the contract was all the artwork scenes that I did. They're going to allow me to sell those as prints at conventions, and they were super excited about them. I think their only stipulation was, we want some too. Like, sign some and send us some.
Yeah.
So, like,
it's a great crossover. For sure.
Great client to work with, and like, they hired me for me. They wanted me to do my thing, what I'm good at. They didn't want me to adhere to, like, this style of board game or that style of artwork, and it made me think to, like, earlier projects in my career where, like, I was pigeonholed into, like, we want you to draw like the last guy who drew for us. Like, why doesn't it look the same?
Concept design kind of gets you in that trap sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Admiral, we have enemy ships in Sector 47. It's a trap.
Now, I should also mention to the dear listener that it will create this rift in the studio that Justin has gotten to one of my bucket list things sooner by accident than I have by design. I'm also working on developing a boxed role-playing game for the tabletop, and then suddenly Justin gets this call, like, hey, do you want to do this thing? And suddenly this amazing mass-produced game is suddenly happening. So
I could introduce you. I could maybe get you.
Yeah, but if an accident should befall him, Curry's, I just want you to know that I had nothing to do with it. And my Burning jealousy was not a motivation.
One thing I want to say is that, and I'm just looking at their Kickstarter page right now, and I did a Kickstarter for FanQuest to launch it, and I realize now that I kind of did it poorly. We did reach our goal, but it was touch and go there for a minute. But these guys are really organized about the Kickstarter. Like, to hire you to have all that concept art, not just concept art, but finished art done before they even launched the Kickstarter. Like, there's so much here that you can see that
we still have it's when 17th, March 17th. So it's still like a couple days out, but they are so prepared.
Well, it seems very obvious that as a company, their model is similar to ours, direct to consumer. Right. And Kickstarter gives them that ability to have a direct-to-consumer model that covers all of their base costs.
Basically, it's basically they've got everything ready to go. They just want the money to cover production.
Yeah.
And it's like a pre-sale, basically. They want to pre-sell the game to however many people, and that's all there is to it. I think
now, important here, I think, for the dear listener who's wondering, does that mean Justin doesn't get paid till the end? No.
No. Yeah, I wouldn't think so.
Yeah, you contracted. We don't have to talk figures or anything, but they paid you for your work up front. They didn't say, if it gets funded or if it works out.
Yeah. The other amazing thing about this was they contacted me. We discussed rates, and timeline-wise, I explained my business. Like I am traveling from conventions. I think we originally started talking around September, and I was very clear. I really want to work on this project, but I want to be able to concentrate on it. So if we can start from October until February, I don't have conventions yet, so you get me then. But if we try to start now, I'm home for 3 days and I'm gone for 4 days, and then I'm home for 4 days, and it's nuts. So they were very...
And they accommodated that schedule.
But also they were planning that far ahead.
Right.
Wow, and they really thought about it. Easy setup and teardown, they've got easy... They thought about everything. These guys are really, I know we're kind of praising them a lot here, but it's really, I've seen a lot of these things, and they've really thought about all these
Important to say for the person that's listening and why we're so, we actually don't know them personally. We only know them through this business relationship. But if what you're trying to do is create confidence in a person's ability to deliver a product through a third-party website like, Indiegogo or Kickstarter, this is clearly the way to do it. It's got all three of us convinced that they'll.
You did all these ships and everything?
Of course. It's
these are awesome.
Yeah.
Right?
Those ships.
All that design, they've got nice little text boxes behind them with nice little headers. That's the kind of stuff I thought I was going to be doing as well, right? Which you can
do, and you have done. I can
do, but it takes a lot of time. But no, they were just build the cool looking ships and move on to a cool looking ship.
Okay. That's awesome.
Yeah, that is awesome.
And they made these things little pieces, these ships little pieces?
Yeah, so I designed, there's player ships, so there's 4 player ships, which, you take. And then they had a 3D artist 3D print them, so there's little actual physical 3D printed ships for your game board. And then the characters as well, You
could paint those guys too.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's just because it's a... if they're not going to come painted, or probably not. Hey,
hardcore board game people they like painting
they do
their
themselves,
own thing. So
look at you, and there you are, right there.
Hey, there I am.
Yeah,
that's an old picture. Look at this whole team. Yeah,
that's awesome. No,
who's
great.
the graphic designer? Let's give
designer Jonathan Thwaites.
Okay, Jonathan. Woo. Shout out. You've done a great job.
And then 3D modeler Nicholas Hein, Hein. So that's awesome. Oh, there's others. Dan Hughes is another graphic designer. He had more than one graphic designer.
Man.
Wow. Okay, so if any of you graphic designers have been mistreated by this company and you need somebody to out...
I had to send them my vector files. God.
You sent your vector files to them?
My vector files. I do not use Adobe Illustrator the way it was intended, so I'm always really curious as to what a normal designer thinks of my mess when they open that.
It looks like it's a madman's cupboard is each of those files, but they print great.
Yeah,
they print great. Okay, so you had this great sort of experience with you being hired for you, and then also, people recognizing that.
Good to note. We're both kind of in a situation where we have enough. We know where to find projects, and we have enough projects coming our way that we can be a little pickier.
Yeah.
And this particular project came at a time when there was 3 or 4 projects on my desk that I could have gone with.
So this was, in all things being equal, it was the most fun. So
it was the most fun, and just talking. I think one of the main things was my first thing is to get them to do a bit of research on their end for me, right? what do you want me to do? I need like a bit more details.
Yeah.
And they came back with like, well, we have a full thing, but we need you to sign an NDA. And then we've got a whole like story for the world, and we've got all this stuff. And that right there was like a green light of like, okay, these guys are legit. They know what they're doing, and they have a lot of material ready for me. Yeah. It's not just they're making it up as they go along.
For a new listener just starting out, NDA is just a non-disclosure agreement, meaning that you sign it to say that I promise not to release any of the proprietary ideas that I'm being hired to work on, even if I don't do them.
You asked about like Starlight like earlier on, like a couple months ago on the podcast, and I was quiet about it just because we weren't at the stage yet. Things were still developing and
trapped
but
by
now
the NDA.
We want to shout it from the rooftops because they're great.
Have you ever had an experience that was the opposite of this, where you were hired not for you?
Yes. Oh my God. This, I was thinking about this, like while this project was finishing up was early in my career, like before I was the Chasing Artwork company, when I was still working in video games, I finished up a book project and I was a hired illustrator. I wasn't...
So this was a freelance on the side?
This was a freelance on the side. There was a writer involved. I was hired as the illustrator and the designer, right? Like, so not only did I do all the illustrations for the kids' book, I put all the words in. I did that page of copyright. I did the back matter about us and all that stuff. And I designed a cover, and it was all ready to print. I'd printed books before, so I knew how to like lay everything out. And then the writer who owned the project, who had paid me for my time, found a publisher. And so the publisher contacted me wanting my files. And I'm like, okay, we've got the print ready book ready to go. Like, I'm excited to see this. And we've talked about this before. Part of this, part of the print was I was going to buy a couple hundred copies to have at my table at shows, to sell, to promote the book. Like, I was happy with what we did. And this publisher came back and she goes, oh, no. I have to finish the book. I have some work to do on it. I need all your and she didn't want the native files. She didn't want the Illustrator files. She didn't want the Photoshop files. She wanted flattened JPEGs because she needed to put it back together in Publisher so she could do her work.
Oh my goodness.
And so alarm bells started going off.
In a 1990s program, she wanted to reorganize your book.
So at this point, I also started looking up this publishing company and previous work they had done. This was what do you call it, Vanity Press?
Right,
this woman had access to, her husband did something in the printing industry, and so she had access to a printer, but she was not a graphic designer. She was not a publisher. She was just...
She wasn't hiring those people to do it, right?
Yeah, she was untrained, and it was clear by her other design projects on her publishing site that she was not a designer. I phoned the writer and said, like, I think this woman doesn't know what she's doing. I don't want to hand over my files. Like, we have a finished book that's ready to print. Why are we doing more work? Why are we, like, redoing a bunch of work over again?
Now, did you have a moment, I think it's important to dwell on, did you have a moment where you thought, maybe they're right. Maybe the book isn't up to snuff. Maybe they have to fix some things. Maybe I'm a junior designer and they have more experience. Like, did you have a moment where you just said, like, you know, they're the publisher, maybe they know better?
No. I'd had a half-hour conversation with this woman, and I tried to talk shop, and she didn't understand RGB and CMYK. Okay. She did not understand crop marks or bleed. She didn't know what InDesign really was. No, she hated InDesign. She didn't like using it. Publisher was what she knew.
Right.
She didn't know the difference between Illustrator and Photoshop. Like, it was very clear. Right. Like, I'm sure she's a nice person, but this was not her forte. So it came down to this publisher had signed contracts with the writer. I had no say over anything, so I had to hand over my files, and the end product became something that I couldn't associate myself with. So I had to phone the writer and have this conversation that went, remember when I was going to buy a couple hundred books? Well, now I'm not, because I can't be involved anymore.
Yeah, take my name off.
Did they take your name off of it?
No, she did try to have it very, very small. Like, the cover had 3 different fonts, it had colored bars that were like, you know, when you pick Word, you know how
flourishes.
Oh my
they had
God,
some flourishes. Oh, that's so nice.
Like it was just a nightmare. I still keep it around as like a horror story to tell at graphic design seminars and my talks.
You're gonna scare your kids at night when you have kids to go to bed. Go to bed, or else you'll be paired with a bad publisher.
It's my example of like why publishers need to be vetted. You can't just go with the first person.
The illustrious Jabba bids you welcome and will gladly pay you the reward of 25,000.
You know.
50,000, no less.
Eventually, the writer sued this publisher for her rights back because the publisher didn't do anything they were supposed to.
And then you guys produced together.
And then we reprinted the same file that I had in the first place, and I bought a couple hundred. We printed 500 books, and then I printed another because we sold out. So we've reprinted it. It's on its second printing already.
Nice.
My goodness. Okay. Anyway, sorry, I ranted long enough.
No, but it was a good lesson for you early on, right?
I get fired up while thinking about that project.
Now, do you think you appreciate the relationship of working on Starlight more as a result?
Yes. I think you need a couple projects like that to know the red flags of people like this publisher as well.
Why didn't you feel ashamed and then give up?
I kind of did. I said I'm washing my hands of this and I'm getting away, and then the writer eventually came back like months later and says like, this is going horribly. What can we do? I'm like, I know, I called it. Why didn't we listen to me?
Mm-hmm. So if you need a thorough, I told you so. Work with Justin with this shady publisher. But what I mean is, you went on and did other things. You didn't let yourself be crushed by what was, on the surface, a cool opportunity.
Be the reason Cassie and Tonk happened was like, oh, I can do this way better than a publisher can.
That's true. Interesting. Because we commiserated about that story when we first sat down,
Well, and you've had similar situations.
Yeah. We've had similar situations. Oh, man. Yeah. Right now, I'm just struggling. I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, at the top of the podcast, I believe they say in radio.
Say at the top of the hour.
Top of the hour? Well, whatever it is. It's been a lot of hours. I'm on the finish line of both a prose novel with illustrations and a graphic novel. And if I ever say to you that I should for sure have both of those deadlines happen in the same month span, slap me in the mouth.
Yeah,
right?
what's
it's a bad idea.
The finish line of those two projects look like? We're very familiar with what the graphic novel finish line looks like, but with an actual written novel, I imagine it's very different.
It's different conceptually. So when I'm working, I shouldn't say you, because I work a little bit differently because I tend to do the writing, the illustration, and the colors on books that I'm writing. I do that all myself, and that's often a number of people's jobs, but I tend to do that all myself. So my drafts, when I'm turning my graphic novel drafts into publishers or into editors, are sort of these globs of story that are held together by the thumbnails of the unillustrated pages. And so the editor sees what I'm planning, sees the illustrations I've done together. I tend not to illustrate in order, right? I'll do some from the beginning, some from the end, some from the middle. It helps me stay even. I'm a little bit spastic when it comes to my art style, in that I will change between projects a little bit. And so in order to spread that evenness out in a graphic novel, if I start a little in all the areas, the reader isn't jarred by a sudden change in the art style, right? So the graphic novel finish line really has to do with the print deadline is set, the time it'll take you to do the artwork is set, and then you can make some small substantive changes to the writing because the art takes the most time. So you try to pivot around not making too many changes to the art. With Good Boys, unfortunately, we realized, my editor and I realized that, and I can name her because she's basically saving the book. Jennifer Lum here has come in and really illustrated to me what is missing in what I thought my story was and how I could get there. So we've sort of taken the whole thing apart and put it back together. Not a typical finish line for me. Usually the finish line is 90% of the art is done. The last 10% I'll fix with the writing fixes with my editor. In this case, a lot more work and brain power and fear and sadness and frustration. Because I thought my finish line for the graphic novel would be like the original one, change 10%, fix the words, no problem, I stacked it up on top of my book deadline for the novel that I've finished, Automatic Age, that has also got illustrations and some design elements. And that was perhaps in error. I can say in retrospect that my belief that I had it all figured out, that's built out of a little bit of experience and a little bit of ego, and you have to maybe think about which one is leading. When you do a book project, and we've had Sam Biko in previous episodes talk about this, and we've had Claire Marshall on talking about that, there is a step where the book is sort of finished, and there's a little bit of time once the ARC, the advanced reader copies, go out for you to pivot a small amount. But a novel, if you change, in my experience anyway, if you change a paragraph or a character in a novel on page 1, you have to change every instance that refers to that character or situation for the next 100 pages.
Cascading
right?
changes.
There's a cascading effect. If I change how a character looks who appears in panel 1 of a graphic novel and page 10, panel 2 of another page and then somewhere else, it's actually a small change to change the look of that character.
Adding a mustache.
Right? Or a hat or a clothing change, or like, for example, because we've moved some pages around in the order they appear in Good Boys, had to change the clothes of the characters, things like that.
Yeah.
Those are not huge changes in a graphic novel.
I understand.
But if you change a metaphor in a novel, and all of the things that you as a writer have put in that point to that metaphor, you got to scrub it all out to make a change and so if your editor on that story doesn't see the same thing, it can lead to some frustration. A lot of
Command F and like scrubbing through.
Yes, less so. For me, it was more to do with explaining. So Automatic Age is genre, and the publisher doesn't publish a lot of genre. And in science fiction, okay, so I've overall had a very positive experience with Great Plains Publication, so I don't want it to cast shade on the book itself. It's been awesome. I'm really excited. But for me, where my frustration has been is that I want the reader of the story to ask certain questions that I have not provided the answer to. I've specifically created a place in the story where you will say, well, if the world is perfect, what are these humans fighting over? How could this dad be the veteran of a war? I thought they lived in a perfect utopia. Mm-hmm. That's the question you're supposed to ask. Yeah. I don't want to give you that answer. That's for you to figure out.
Yeah.
What?
Right? You got to figure that out.
That's the juxtaposition that's so exciting.
I want all the answers.
Where did the Iron Giant come from? And like, why was he built for war?
Exactly.
Yeah. You don't want that answer because it's going to ruin things.
So genre tends to create these mystery boxes as their own thing. Like, and I'm realizing, and I'm speaking with my wife, who is she's very well read. She reads all over the map. She was the quickest one to point out. She's like, that's just a way that science fiction deals with things, right? It's a style of writing. You don't know what the what is it called? The Bulgarian Jihad in Dune is. They just refer to it. You know that it happened. Oh,
yeah, okay.
Right? And they fought all the robots and it happened, but we don't know why. It just sets up the MacGuffin that there are no thinking machines. People do all the work that robots used to do, right? In the Dune books.
Yes.
Right? Mm-hmm. There are no computers. There are people who think like computers. It's just a way to have it, right? So that the metaphor can extend for what...
We don't talk about the event.
That's right.
We reference the event, but we don't talk about the event.
Yeah, that's a very common thing. You see it a lot.
And a common bit of feedback along the way working with Great Plains about Automatic Age was, well, you didn't explain this. Well, you didn't explain that. You didn't explain, it was clear to me that the publisher was used to a certain style of storytelling and that mine was different than what they were used to. And they told me when we got together, like, we're taking a chance here. So, like, it was all on the table, like, every piece.
Well, don't look at me, pal. I just said you were a fair pilot. I didn't know they were looking for somebody to lead this crazy attack. I'm surprised they didn't ask you to do it. Well, who says they didn't, but I ain't crazy.
The pressure of the deadline of your book going to print is one thing. The pressure of another book going to print that you also screwed up on top of that, has created this lens where I'm looking through my choices at the book underneath, maybe not in the healthiest way all the time, right? Because you need to, when you're making a decision like, okay, I'm going to make an edit, I'm going to cut this out, or I'm going to put this back in, you want to be clear-headed and sort of free of doubt. And sometimes I found myself carrying the doubt of the deadline of Good Boys into the editing process of Automatic Age. And I was having a great time writing Automatic Age. Sometimes I was taking the overconfidence I had that it was a good story into the editing process of
overlapping
Good Boys.
Emotions and between these two projects.
That overlapping emotion in these two deadlines was something that I've not dealt with before to this degree. Because up until now, I've had overlapping deadlines.
It's almost like a personal event affecting your work.
Yeah. Well, and I've had overlapping deadlines a lot. That's basically where I live, is in a world of overlapping deadlines. But when...
It sounds so stressful.
Right? But when my deadline is related to your project, my emotional distance is much greater.
Yeah.
So I'm able to hear, that's not right, change it for me under these conditions is how we want it. No problem. I can hear that all day long from 10 different people when it wasn't my idea.
Yeah.
I'm helping to get their idea the way they want it. Those overlapping things don't affect me. I just I can whistle my way through an email of changes. But when all those changes were, there's no other way to put it, my fault in all cases, right? Yeah. Whether they were good or bad, that press of that emotional lens, I was not prepared for this past month. And then I was also doing the the writer in residency, which actually was, I think, the saving grace. Being able to see everyone else terrified about how their manuscript looked allowed me to be like, okay, yeah, just relax. You're just writing, right? Writing is, publishing is the byproduct of writing, right? Write for the right reasons. Let your emotions run wild if they must, but you only have so many hours. You only have so many days. So that deadline piece is very different. Like, really, the end of a book is easier than the end of a graphic novel as far as your emotional connection, all things being equal. But doing them both at the same time has created this kind of Doppler effect that I was not quite ready for. So when I said I came in, right, and I was a little bit frazzled, it was because I'd gotten some things about how the cover was, and normally it would just be like, oh, the cover's not how I envisioned it. Authors don't normally get too much say in how the cover is laid out, except I had done those illustrative elements myself, so I wanted them a certain way, laid out a certain way. If I hadn't also spent a late night doing Good Boys revisions, I probably would have been smooth about the whole thing, but instead it rattled me in a way that I wasn't used to.
Okay.
If we're in the truth talk, which is what really this podcast is
now,
supposed to be about.
You have input talking about the idea of being both an illustrator and a designer. It's not your job to design that cover, right? It's their job to do it. Somebody else did it, but you have input over it, or how does that?
So normally, if you're an author, you don't. If a publisher is polite, they let you in on the design process, but you don't really have a say. They can override you. That's their purview. In this particular instance, I had contracted to do the cover illustrations.
Right. Just the illustrations, though, not
just the illustrations, and that the overall book design would go to another person and firm.
An aside, how many writers were upset when their fantasy novels came out and there's a bunch of characters that creatures that never show up
so often
in their book?
Or the characters don't look anything like what they described in the book?
Not even close, no.
Yeah. And that's, that's a common problem because you don't have time to read every novel that you're doing the cover design for, right? And
Or old VHS covers as well. There's always this epic painting of like, you know, Death Stalker, and there's all this stuff that never happens in the movie.
It doesn't look as good in the movie.
No,
I always love it. My favorite is when you see the font of the title of the film is it's in a different font in the film as opposed to on the box. So somebody like it looks better on the box almost always, but it's they've not kind of worked together.
Does the cover for both for like a movie and a novel? Does the cover get done first, and then? I don't know. Or is it last?
I think a movie might be different.
Oh man, it's
kind of all over.
It's a degree, not a category. So, like, if you're doing a low-budget film, a lot of that design work is probably done early because it's the concept work that you're also using to sell, and you don't have the budget to hire people over and over and over to do redesigns. You just use what you got, right? In a big-budget film, once they have test audiences,
of course,
or even a mid-budget, even like into that $10 million, $20 million range. There's a test audience, there's feedback, you have enough room to hire a better designer than maybe you started with, and so you'll see some of that iteration go on. And again, when I'm in those scenarios, God, I don't sweat notes or changes or whatever because it's somebody else's vision that you're helping to bring onto the page. So you gotta make those changes. I'm doing some concept work also in the middle of all this other stuff, which has actually been a nice in a way break for a musical project that has pages of a graphic novel that are going with a musical element, and that person sends very clear notes for what they want changed and why, and those don't stress me out the same way that a note from an editor about something that was completely my idea might need to be changed because and
when you're the one sending changes, do you find you get stressed out about eliciting this kind of response to the person you're giving the changes to? Like, am I asking too much of this person? And like,
yes, I literally, when Dan walked through the door today, I was on the phone. I was on the phone because I didn't want to send an email that there's no way that it wouldn't sound like I'm an asshole because it was a list of things I wanted done a certain way. And when you make an email that is a list of things you want done a certain way and you won't accept anything but that thing, you always come across like an asshole.
Yeah, you can't convey tone.
So instead I emailed saying, I have a list of things that I think when I send it, I'm going to come across as an asshole. Could I call you so that you hear my tone and, you know... Yeah. And so I did that, and that was a conversation I was having about some changes that needed to be made that I wanted done a certain way. And the reason being, it was the same as you. I'm going to have 1,000 copies of this thing over the next 24 months pass through my hands. I want to love it. Yeah. I don't want to look at it and every time I touch it be like, oh, I wish I had.
It represents your brand. Yeah. You need to make sure it's on brand.
Yeah, which is can be tricky. So we can't all have Starlight all the time.
No kidding.
Right? Who did not sponsor this podcast, but is a game. Now, we should do maybe a podcast episode where we play the game.
That'd be great.
Fun,
actually, let me put it another way, where I win the game.
When is it? Okay, so the Kickstarter is, actually I just looked at the page. So when is it set for delivery? When is this going to be actually made?
I'm not sure.
Okay, I'll just look at the page.
I am going to be doing a big...
he did his part.
He's done with
post,
it, yeah.
on
June 2021, so next year. Yeah. So basically, they're looking to, they got to produce it, they got to print everything, and cut. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's not just a printed board game. There's 3D pieces. There's
pieces and all kinds of stuff.
Like custom dye. There's
one of my favorite YouTube channels is Beer and Board Games, and they play exactly what they says. They play board games and drink beer, and I love to see them play this game. They play all kinds of games like this, like super kind of. I'm not saying it's complicated, but intricate is a better word for it.
Yeah.
Like just kind of cool role playing space games like this.
Get your board game done so we can go to Gen Con and I'll come along to hang out with Starlight guys.
Well, I've been prototyping things, so we're ready. And the big thing is that every time we do a play test, one of the things I do is I take the notes from the play test and switch the setting for the next play test.
To see if it
to make sure that it jives. It's really easy for those of you who are into tabletop role-playing design. It's really easy to make a specific rule change. Right? Like, so for example, if it's a fantasy world and you want plate mail to always be more protection than chain mail, making that specific in-world rules adjustment, that's easy, really.
Mm-hmm. But now it's sci-fi.
But if you're trying to create a system that works on the basis of storytelling that can switch genres whenever the players feel like it, right? Those kinds of rules actually are the antithesis of that kind of gaming, because you need to be way more fluid and you don't want to have that much. The only way to have that attention to detail is to have lots of charts and lots of books that keep track of all that stuff. A litigious game is not the kind of thing we're designing.
Keep your distance, though, Chewie, but don't look like you're trying to keep your distance. I don't know. Fly casual.
Now, can I ask you a question based on, since we're talking about test playing your game, have you ever run a session in which you were not the game master?
Yes.
Okay.
I have participated in a few, and we are. I've set up a few for this coming year where I will be a player while someone else is running a number of sessions.
That's a great, because I know that like you're excellent at running these games by now.
Well, thank you.
Well, I've only done one of them, but at the same time, you need to see how other people are going to handle this and work with it, right? So that's a very important part.
And
of
a good test for me has been watching my kids run elements of it with each other and their friends.
Yeah.
You know, they don't know that I'm watching, but I'm always watching. Right?
A little camera up in the corner.
And the trick is, if a 8-year-old or a 10-year-old, I guess 9 and 11 now, can explain to their friends what is expected in the rules and still have fun, and a 40-year-old can explain it to a group of 30-year-olds and they're also having the same fun with the same rules, that's how I feel you're onto something that works. Right?
Cool.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Yeah. Now, you're also, Dan, not exempt from this
I'm not.
iteration and creation. You are essentially pitching a new podcast.
Yes.
Right?
Can I talk about it?
I think you shouldn't talk about the details of it, but you can talk about the generalities of it. How about this? I'm going to ask you some questions.
Okay.
And you answer them.
Okay.
You've done podcasting for a long time.
Yes.
How many years have you been?
Well, since 2011. That's just when my friend Kenton and I started Media Nerds for Fun. We did it out of the college. We had the equipment there anyway. So we just started talking about movies, TV shows, all that fun stuff every week.
And you've done, you mean maybe now in the thousands of episodes?
No. Because we would take the summers off. We didn't always do it every week. Media Nerds are up to 230-something episodes, 235 or 6 episodes. And then Star Wars Nerds, we've done 100 and something episodes.
And we've done 110 episodes roughly of Super Pulp Science.
Yes. So I've done at least 500 episodes of podcasting.
So
plus I teach my students about it. I have my students all produce podcasts. I've been like kind of immersing myself in this world for almost a decade now.
So it's taken you a long time, I think, to even self-identify as a content creator, as an artist.
Yeah, I don't think of myself as an artist. Content creator, yes. Artist, no. I don't think of it as an art necessarily.
But you're creating an experience that somebody
sure.
consumes and can return to in order to feel a certain set of emotions.
Is that art?
Yes.
Okay.
I think so.
I think so.
Right?
Yeah.
I think so. As long as there isn't a chemical stimulant involved, I believe.
Okay.
You know, because you can revisit cocaine for a certain set of emotional rides.
Involved in that. Stimulant or drugs is what got Kevin Smith Tusk.
That's right. Oh my God.
that was a movie that was born out of a podcast because he was really high when he recorded that podcast. So I'm sure a lot of people who were really high when they listened to it encouraged him to do that. It was really not a great idea. Anyway.
But you come to a place where the thing that you're doing because you love it. I mean, and we've said many times, if you won't do it for free, right? You'll never get paid to do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Here you are in a position where someone has said the thing you can do is of value.
Yeah.
Can you adjust from your own personal reasons to make podcasts and do this for someone else? Tell me about what that feels like.
Well, it helps that the subject matter of this is something that I'm interested in anyway, so I feel like it's a good fit. And I don't know, like it's going to be challenging. Actually, I've got another possible contract lined up with a different client that's not going to be necessarily something that that
you don't think is
it's not that it's not that I don't know anything about it. It's just that I don't find it as interesting as this specific podcast we're talking about. So that helps to be invested in it. And so you want to do it. Like I come here every week because I want to. Mm-hmm. I have fun hanging out with you guys and talking to you guys about stuff. So that's part of the fun of it. Now, getting paid helps, of course. You get paid for your work, and that's good. But I'm excited about this one. Maybe not as excited about the other one coming up, but I'm going to try and make it work because I do want to make this a thing that I do going forward. I do want to be a podcast producer.
Right.
Now, the tough part of it is that very similar to social media marketing, everybody thinks they can do it. Everybody thinks they have, like, all you need is an iPhone and a, whatever to record a podcast. There are so many blogs and videos out there that tell people that's all you need. And really there's a lot more to it than that. But it's also not just about the equipment used, but what you talk about and how you structure that conversation and that kind of stuff. That's a big part of it as well. And that's what I feel I bring to the table here is my knowledge of, like, what works and what doesn't work as far as content goes, right?
So it's like the difference between being a hockey fan and a hockey player, right? Right.
Yeah. That's good. Nice sports analogy.
Thank you.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Didn't expect
I'm
that.
not just one thing,
Well, I know you don't like sports.
No, but I like analogies.
So I think that I'm really excited about this. It's going to be we'll talk about it specifically when we get there, but it seems like it's going to be a great kind of partnership and a great project to work on. And yeah, I don't know. I can't really say much more. Again, I don't want to be vague about it, but I can't really say much more until we finalize some details.
Let me ask you this then, that you won't have to be specific about anything.
Right.
Have you had a deep dive into the time and energy it takes to produce a podcast that you like versus producing one that you might have to do for money? And it changes the relationship. The reason I bring this up is because I'm in this position right now, right, where I have 2 books that I'm finishing, that I'm putting in a lot more time and energy in than I may need to. And there will never be a return from that time out of it. They're from publishers who did pay me, but everything extra beyond that, that's on me. And at the same time, I also had to take on client work that I have to produce.
Yeah. So this second podcast project that I mentioned is actually, right now I'm actually blogging freelance for this company. And it's something that I write these blog posts about, and it's not like a regular thing. It's like it's pretty good actually. It's pretty flexible. Whenever I'm inspired to write a blog post, I pitch the idea to them and they approve it, and then I go ahead and write it, and that's pretty much it. And it's just as it comes basis. So I don't have a schedule to keep. I can write whenever I'm free to do so. But I find that because the subject matter isn't as, like, in my wheelhouse as other stuff, I'm reluctant to get into that headspace.
Was that a job, just for the dear listeners, like, hey, that sounds like a good gig, how do I get that? How did you get that? Was it offered to you?
Well, in a way, I get a lot of stuff come across my desk because I'm an instructor at Red River College, and this one in particular, they were actually looking for students. And so, no, I was not taking work. I did offer it to students. I will absolutely say that. I put it out there for students to take them up on it, but I also said, if you're interested, I'm also somebody who could do this, because I was looking to make some extra money at the time, and I still am, obviously. But
aren't we all?
Well, we are. But and it really seemed like the kind of stuff they wanted me to write about, or wanted people to write about, is not stuff that students have a lot of life experience with. Things like taxes and life problems, and going to the dentist. No,
right.
not that. But things that, like, the students, the younger students anyway, wouldn't know a lot about doing those things, whereas an older person does have a bit more experience in that area.
We've failed a lot more.
Exactly. And so what I did is I approached the older students in my program, so the students that are closer to our age, to do this, and a couple of them are writing for this client as well.
Oh, so you did get them work.
Of course,
so you all did it, yeah.
So that's why I've got, like, a bit of flexibility, because they have multiple people writing for them, so they're good. They're good with content, right? But anyway, at some point we are going to move this into the podcast stage. They do want to create a podcast as a marketing tool for their business. So that's when it's going to be a bit of a challenge, I think, for me to because that's a lot more time consuming. Writing a blog is pretty straightforward for me. Like, I just get it sorted in my head, write a brief outline, and then just vomit it out onto the screen. No, that's what I do. That's what I write. I just write it, and then I read it, I proofread it, I rewrite it, I do a couple passes on it, and that's it. It doesn't take me long to write a blog post. It takes me several hours to produce a podcast.
I'm pretty sure there's a Farley Mowat quote that says, people who say writing is easy are either lying or I hate them.
So
you are one of those people where certain things come easily.
Well, no,
that's just practice, discipline. You know what you're doing.
It's not. It's all it is don't be afraid to suck. That's my mantra when it comes to writing. Just put it out there. Put whatever you're thinking out onto the page just to get it out there, and then you can rewrite. You can revise. That's what I tell all the students. Don't be afraid because they sit there and hem and haw. What am I going to write about? I don't know what to write about.
You know what? And
just put something out there.
It's taken a lot of time to get to what is probably obvious to the listener. My trepidations around these 2 book deadlines have everything to do with the fact that they are not for us specifically. I have other people who I'm trying to do right by in those projects. Like 2 publishers have entrusted me, right, and put in considerable time, money, and effort to produce work of mine that they're going to get out into the world. When we make a book and we take it out ourselves on the road, it succeeds or fails based on our own grit. Right. And sometimes the idea is no good, but that's fine. We're going to make another one, and nobody is at risk. But every time I have to talk to another person whose job is tied up in producing my work, I get this little crumb of I don't know if it's not guilt is the wrong word, but like I owe it to that team, apprehension, to do it good enough for them rather than just good enough for me. And instead I should, I'm going to think about that deeply over the next week.
They hired you for you, right? They didn't just hire a writer. They hired a GMB Kamichuk.
Yeah. I was due for an existential crisis, so this is good.
Good.
Yeah, this is good.
Things were going too well.
Oh my goodness. Okay. This has been Super Pulp Science, where we have talked about how genre gets made and specifically our relationship to the work that we make every day. So I'm encouraging you to get out there, make comics, write stories, design board games, produce podcasts, whatever you do, join the fight. And we'll talk to you next week.